Hello once again, everyone. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. At the age of 16, Brian Hyland had the #1 record in the country, Itsy, Bitsy, Teenie, Weenie, Yellow, Polka, Bikini, for which he received a gold record. Hyland's other major hit, Sealed with a Kiss, reached #3 in 1962. He cut a string of chart records with the writing production team of Gary Geld and Peter Udell. The Joker Went Wild and Run Run Look and See, which were in the top 20 on the charts. Brian cut his third gold record with Curtis Mayfield's Gypsy Woman, produced by Shannon. Gypsy Woman sold over 3 million copies internationally. Brian successfully recorded everything from Novelty to Pop Ballads to folk rock to country rock to pop soul over more than a decade. Hyland released several singles in 2021, Come a Little Bit Closer, The Greatest Love, Crying in the Rain, and You Got a Message. This year he released the single Mr. Blue. To this day, Brian continues to write, record, and perform all over the world. Please welcome legendary singer, musician, and 60s hitmaker Brian Hyland to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Ray. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You're performing tonight, aren't you?
No, actually, it's tomorrow at Bergen Pack Performing Arts Center over in New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, I got that mixed up. It is the 17th. I do see that. That's the holiday doo-wop, and you're gonna be with Lou Christie, Larry Chance and the Earls, the Capris, the Tokens, and of course you.
That's right. I think also it's in Englewood. It's right by Englewood, New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be great. Now, is this tour? Is this going to be a tour, or is this just kind of selected, shows around the country?
No, this is a one-nighter, and but I worked this particular show last year. Right around the same time as a Christmas show, and it's a beautiful venue.
And yeah. Now is your son going to be playing with you as well on drums?
No, my son is a banker now.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. No, so I'm on my own as far as that goes, and I work with. There's a group of musicians that the promoters on the East Coast here use all the time, and they know all my tunes, and so it's pretty much the way it goes nowadays. And the musicians that we work with now are fantastic.
I love these combo tours. Bowser does one. I cover the Happy Together tour. There was Hippie Fest. Of course, there's Ringo's All-Star tour. I think they're wonderful. And, of course, the cruises. The malt shop cruise is another excellent music venue on a ship, which I call Woodstock on the high seas, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that particular one, I did that once, the malt shop, and I'm doing a cruise thing with Rocky and the Rollers, and that's going to be in February coming up. So that should be it. And you're down there in Florida, so it's a lot of them come out of Fort Lauderdale, and I guess let's see, not Miami, but Fort Lauderdale, Cape Canaveral. That's what I was trying to.
Right. Also Tampa. We get a lot of ships that get out of Tampa as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I've interviewed a lot of guys that you know. I had. One guy, this is kind of weird. Gary Lewis is following you. He's going to be my next interview.
I know Gary. He's a great guy.
Yeah, you and Gary kind of shared, it's almost kind of like a competition, maybe a friendly competition as well, but you had a lot of similarities and bringing out the hits, and there was actually one song that you guys kind of shared together, right? Was it Save Your Heart for Me?
Right. I recorded that. It was the B-side of another song that I recorded called I'm Afraid to Go Home, which is about the Civil War.
Right.
And Save Your Heart for Me was on the flip side. And and also, like later on, I was working with the same producer, Snuff Garrett and Leon Russell, that Gary worked with. But I worked with them when I did The Joker Went Wild and Run, Run, Look and See. And Gary worked with them for a much longer stretch of time, and he recorded "Save Your Heart for Me," and actually he took it right up to almost to the top of the charts. And also he did a version of "Seal with a Kiss."
Oh, "Save Your Heart for Me" wasn't that actually kind of written for you, though, wasn't it originally?
Well, it was written. Yeah, it was. I think it was a year before he did it.
Right.
Before Gary did it. And but I thought they did a great version with Leon. Leon did a great arrangement, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, Leon. I mean, he was great, man. He was part of that big team. All right, I think he was part of the Wrecking Crew, right? At one time.
That's right. He was part of the Wrecking Crew with Hal Blaine and all the other guys that were, they played all the sessions, and they. I mean, they were fabulous. They played on everybody's records, just about.
Did they play on a lot of your records as well?
They did. When I recorded in California,
right.
Initially, when I went out there to work, I worked with Snuff Garrett, and the first session that I did, Glenn Campbell was on guitar.
Oh, wow.
Hal Blaine and Earl Palmer. They had two drummers, and Leon played piano, and. It was a great session. We recorded at RCA Studios, and that's where we did The Joker Went Wild.
Yeah, Glenn Campbell was an incredible guitar player. He really was.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
he was great.
Nobody does "Sealed with a Kiss" better than you, though, Brian. you are that is the one that stays with us all these years. It's like "This Diamond Ring." Those two songs are. I mean, that's historic. And I'll argue to death that you should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and probably a lot of the guys that even Gary Lewis should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm not counting on it, but I like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think the people that actually get in there, that get voted in, I think they should show up. And because I know some people kind of put it down in that, and I don't think that you should do that, because it is it's the only thing that the people from the rock and roll era have.
Exactly.
As far as that goes. I mean, you have every other kind of actors, and you have the Grammys, but then you have the Oscars, and you have the Tony Awards, and on and on.
Well, see, I appreciate top 40 music. Number one, I grew up in the 60s. To me, the 60s radio was the best. There was nothing better than that. I got into top 40. I was a DJ back in the late 70s. And I just believe all those great, all the bands, and including yourself, that made all these big hits, they all deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that's just part of the music history there,
Yeah. Well, we're part of the history, I guess, and it's when I look back to when I first started in 1960,
right.
It just seems almost like a dream to me.
Yeah, and your first song, actually, the Polka Dot Bikini. How old were you when that song came out?
I was just 16.
That's crazy.
16 years old.
How did that happen?
Well, I had a doo-wop group.
Right.
And we was one of those street corner kind of things like that.
Yep.
And we made a demo, took the demo over to Manhattan, and met a guy in an elevator. He said, go over to the Brill Building, go to Sammy Kaye's office. They're looking for singers up there.
Uh-huh.
So we did that. And we didn't see Sammy Kaye, but we ran into, we had a meeting with his arranger, and his name was Bugs Bauer.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we're not looking for groups, but we like the way that you sing, Brian, and we'd like to work with you. And so that was a moment, it was kind of shocking, and but then I said, yeah, and I looked at the guys, and they said, go for it. And so I became a solo artist in that instant, and it was just it was the place to meet up with. The Brill Building was where the music publishers, record companies, songwriters, they're all there.
Yeah, those novelty songs were so huge in the 60s too. They were great. You had
quite a few. That particular year, you had Mr. Custer. You know, I Don't Want to Go, and there was quite a few, and it was just part of the scene.
You know, the first record I ever bought was Purple People Eater by Sheb Woolley.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was good. I like that.
That was the very, very first record I ever bought, first 45. But now you were 16 years old. Were you still in high school, or were you out of high school?
No, I was in high school, and you know, like that was when the record came out. It was like right at the end of the school year, and I had told some of my friends that, hey, I got a record, you know, and they said, yeah, right. And so then, like, it just, when the record came out, actually, my brothers had met me one day. This is like a week after it had been released, and they said they were waiting for me at the subway station, and they said, you won't believe it. They're playing your record. They're playing it all day. They've been playing it all day on the radio, and it just took off. And so about 2 months later, I guess, or a month and a half or whatever, I did American Bandstand, the Dick Clark Beach Nut Show, and they still have the clip from that up on YouTube. You can, anybody can watch that, and they had a whole little scenario there with a young girl. She was very young, and it was just like a skit.
They never made a movie around that, did they? Right, with Annette Funicello and Frank Avalon.
No, they never did that.
They should have. You know, that would have been a great theme for one of those shows. The story about that song, of course you know, but it's a young girl who's too afraid to leave her locker where she is changed into her bikini. Then she makes it to the beach. She sits on the sand wrapped in a blanket. Then she finally gets into the ocean, but is too afraid to come out because of this bikini. I think it's great. And
the writer that wrote the lyrics, his name was Paul Vance.
Right.
He actually passed away this past year.
Really?
And he lived in Florida, but he was from New York City. And he told me that he was at the beach. He had a little niece or his daughter. I get that confused, but it was like the first time that they went to the beach. She had a bathing suit on, and she was very shy, and he was observing, he was watching her, and some boys were looking at her, and she was very, being very shy, and so he thought, oh, that's a good idea for a song, and by the time that they got home, he had the whole song just about, and then he called up Lee Pockris, who writes, melodies, and they got together and they had the song in I guess 2 or 3 days, and they had the whole song, and then they brought it up to Cap Records, where I had one record before that, and then they called me in, and I went in to listen to they had a demo already. I listened to that, and they said, okay, you're going to do this part, and then these background singers will do this part, and then there's a spoken word part in this part here, and that was it. And they set up the session. We recorded it probably about a week later, and that was it. Came out.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. It really is. Now, you had was it John Dixon? Was it? He had an orchestra behind that or something? Was that?
I see the name John Dixon. I never met John. I don't know where that came from, but I guess that I was. That was like my first or second time in a recording studio.
Right.
I had done one record before that, and I was very inexperienced. And they said, "Don't get too close to that microphone," and so they were, But I just took it in stride, and it was. But I don't. There was some aspects of the recording sessions that I don't remember. I just remember we were all in one room.
Yeah.
In that particular time period, everything was usually 2-track or 3-track, and And the engineers were great. They had everything mic'd perfectly, and it was just all inputs into the control room, into the console. And it was like they couldn't really do anything after it was on the tape, except, you know, maybe EQ a little bit with treble and bass. That's what we call it.
Right.
And that was about it. And so you had the finished product almost immediately.
You know, with all the technology we have today, you cannot duplicate the sound of those 45s from the 60s. They were clear. You know, they were. You know, you had that echo effect, that echo chamber in the background in a lot of the songs.
Right.
You know, like the early Stones and Beatles. I mean, it was great. You know.
Yes. Yeah, and the engineers were fantastic. They captured everything, and they knew where to put the mics, and at that session, everybody was in the same room at the same time, and I did the vocals with the band right there, and we had it.
It's amazing story. Selling over 1 million records at 16. That's great. You know, they should make a movie based on that. You know, with you, it would be wonderful. You know.
Well, I'd love it.
Yeah. Well, I'll spread the word.
All right.
You know, I saw Huckabee, and you were on Huckabee with, you did Sealed with a Kiss, and you did your little harmonica with that. I didn't know you played harmonica on your records.
Well, actually, you know, on the record, on Sealed with a Kiss, on that, the harmonica part on that was played by a studio musician named Blackie Schachter, and he was unbelievably professional. He played on a lot of records where they wanted harmonica.
Right.
And he had of course, he had a chromatic harmonica with the button on the side, and he just looked at the music sheet and played the whole thing straight away, no problem. And but I had not been doing that for a long time, and somebody was on a show up around San Francisco, and the guy in the band said, "Hey, Brian, why don't you play the harmonica solo on a harmonica?" And so I never thought to do that, and I played harmonica a little bit, and then just messing around, and so I had to figure out which harmonica to get, because the harmonicas, you know, you get them in a certain key,
right?
Like, you know, the C, you know, whatever, A, B, C, and so I talked to another musician. He said, get a G harp in the key of G, because the song, that's E minor is the key, is the relative minor of G in that key, and that's E minor. The song goes in a minor key like that, and that worked out, and I got it. I figured it out, but playing the harmonica is it's kind of a cool thing. I play on a couple of other songs that I do on my set.
You know, I didn't realize just what you said, that there's so many different keys and different harmonicas. I talked to Lee Oscar, you know, who's a great harp player. He played with War, and he sells those harmonicas. You can go online and buy them, and the selection is incredible.
I bought a few of Lee Oscar's harmonicas.
Have you?
But yeah, they're great. Yeah, and you can buy parts for those harmonicas too.
Wow!
You know, if you mess it up with a piece of pepperoni or whatever,
yeah, you can
get a new comb, they call it, and yeah, they're very adaptable.
You know, it looks easy to play, but it's not. I mean, I've tried playing harmonica, and it takes a lot of practice. It really does.
Well, you just gotta. That's it. You gotta practice.
Yeah. Well, one song that really surprised me, this is my wife's favorite song, by the way, of all times. And it's so cool because yesterday I interviewed the actress Catherine Lee Scott, who was in Dark Shadows. And that's my wife's favorite TV show, and now you're one of her favorite performers is you. And we're doing this back to back, so it's freaking me out a little bit. I don't know how that happened. But Gypsy Woman. And the way Gypsy Woman came about, you were so big in the 60s, this was 1970, and you had a lot of competition that year, but you broke through with this Curtis Mayfield tune, huh?
Yeah, that was a surprise, and you know, I was still plugging away trying to get a hit record, and and that was in 1970, and at that point in time, I was working with Del Shannon. I was writing songs with Del, and so we had done one session, and a song that we wrote called "Could You Dig It?"
Right.
And that came out, and nothing really happened with it. And so then the record company said, well, do another session. And so we had some songs that we wrote. We were going over them. We worked out arrangements on them. And then at the last minute, we said, well, we probably should have a ace in the hole. We'll do it, have an oldie that we can do. And so we were just kind of passing guitars back and forth, and try this one. And all of a sudden, I started playing Gypsy Woman, and just out of nowhere, and right there, we said, yeah, that's it. We're going to cut Gypsy Woman. And it turned out that was the best song that came out the best on the session. And the record company, they really liked it right from the beginning.
It was hard for a lot of those 60s artists to break through into the 70s, and one guy that did it with Crimson and Clover, of course, was Tommy James, and which is similar to your, how you did it as well, So you both you broke through the 70s with a big hit. I just want to put your song into perspective. I'm looking at December 5th, 1970. The number one song that week was I Think I Love You by the Partridge Family, then Tears of a Clown by Smokey Robinson, and then Gypsy Woman. But you were in competition. You had the Jackson 5, the Carpenters, you had James Taylor, the Fifth Dimension, Badfinger, the Guess Who, Elvis was number 11. The Who, See Me, Feel Me was number 12. I mean, that's, and Black Magic Woman was 17 by Santana. So that's quite an accomplishment.
I was a big surprise, and but when we recorded Gypsy Woman, I had a really good feeling about it. Sometimes you get that, and it sounded, it just evolved, and the recording, and it took off, and people liked it.
Yeah, you had the best cover of it. I mean, it was Bobby Womack did it. Santana actually did it in 1990 as well. But I think the Impressions, of course, did a good version of it. I like Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield was actually one of the first concerts I ever went to, a long time ago. Then you had. Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm waiting.
Well, I was going to say, with Curtis, I only met him once.
Right.
And he was playing. He's doing a gig out in Los Angeles at the Ash Grove, I think it was. And so I thought, well, this is after after my record had come up and down on the charts. And so I thought, I I never met him. We were on the same label when I started out with ABC Paramount. Mm-hmm. The Impressions were also on there. Anyway, so I went to the Ash Grove and I got tickets, and I watched his set, and so they were all in the dressing room, and so I walked up and I said I wanted to, and they said, okay, just go in, So I opened the door. I just peeked in the door and I said, hey, Curtis, I'm Brian Hyland. And he saw me and he said, hey, Brian, we all got Cadillacs now because he's recorded 50 So he was very cool. He's a nice, beautiful person. And, he actually recorded, wrote some songs for other people like Major Lance. Mm-hmm. He wrote a lot of the Major Lance hits. And just a couple of days ago, I guess a week ago, I found out that he recorded this, he wrote this song called Mama Didn't Lie. Mm-hmm. Mama Didn't Lie. It was I forget who the girl singer, but you can check that out. But it was a cool record, very cool record.
Yeah, when I saw him, he just got into Superfly, and Freddie's Dead, and from that album, he was just starting, right, which got really big. That album was huge. He was on his own then too. It was just Curtis Mayfield. Right.
The Impressions were doing their own thing.
Exactly. I was a big Batman fan, okay, when they came out in, 66. And this worked out perfect for you because when the Joker Went Wild came out, they paralleled that with Batman and the Joker. So that kind of helped sales, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess I never thought of that, but that's true. There was a lot of people that had done the Batman theme. I think everybody wanted to get the Batman theme to use on the television show, and it was just out there. I guess music publishers, and that was the thing. Batman was a big deal when it first started on television. It was a big deal.
And then this Joker Went Wild came out, and everybody's thinking about Cesar Romero, It was great.
Wow, I never thought of that myself, but I guess you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday when that song came out, and I was thinking about Batman when the song came out.
Wow.
You did a lot of really good songs recently. You put out a bunch of singles, and unfortunately, that's what you got to do today. You got to either put singles out or EPs because there's not a lot of people selling albums anymore.
No, the music business has gone back to, I think, individual songs.
Right.
And people pick up on that and they'll stream it, or they'll just listen to it on Spotify or whatever. And people focus on one song at a time. And, it changed, like at a certain point it changed where you had, people were just putting 12 songs and one good one and then 11 B-sides.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thing for a while. But and plus, of course, there was a lot of great albums. Just the whole album was great. And so, and that was there was a lot of really good music done in the 1960s.
There really was. But your latest singles, I love them all, man. Come a Little Bit Closer, which of course was written by Boyce and Hart, and Jay and the Americans did that. Your version kind of, to me, had a little bit of a Jimmy Buffett feel, which I really liked. And yeah, and let's see, The Greatest Love, kind of a country gospel R&B feel. You can do anything, man. You're very eclectic with your music, which is really cool.
Thank you. There's one song that I did that I wrote myself called "You Got a Message."
Right.
And that, I thought that came off pretty good. The arrangement and the whole thing. And there's another one that the latest thing that I did was "Mr. Blue,"
right,
the Fleetwood song.
Right.
And I did "Crying in the Rain." That was another one that I had done recently, and they're all up on YouTube, so people can listen to those. Just punch it in.
They're on YouTube, and they can also, I believe, buy them on Amazon too. What I understand.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what song I really liked that you nailed it was "Fortune Teller."
Thank you.
That's a great song.
That was fun. Yeah. That was an Alan Toussaint. He wrote that one, and he also wrote the other one that I did there that you mentioned, "The Greatest Love."
Yeah. Yep. Did a great job with that. One Beautiful Day I enjoyed too. That was kind of a beachy tune. They could put you in that yacht rock category with that. You'd fit in those. You'd fit in that category in a way, right? The yacht rock group.
Well, yeah, Bobby Caldwell.
Right.
And I don't even. Yeah, I like that. I like that kind of stuff myself. And I think Bobby Caldwell, that song that he did, "What You Won't Do for Love."
That's a great tune.
That's such a classic. To me, that's one of the best records probably in the last 25 years or more or less. It's just it stands on its own.
Yeah. Fortune Teller was written by Alan Toussaint, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. And it was recorded, I think, first by Benny Spellman. I don't think he did much with it, but it was covered by the Stones. I remember that. The Hollies and the Who. And I think Robert Plant and Alison Krauss also did it. I remember.
Huh.
Yeah, but you did. I love your version the best. I really do.
Thank you. Appreciate that. There's the singer Robert Palmer.
Oh yeah, sure.
And he did a version of "Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley."
Right.
And I think that was on. And that's a tremendous record. The arrangement and everything. But and I think I heard him do it live too, and he was a great artist.
Yeah, he left us way too soon. You know.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real shame. A lot of these guys, they we could still use them around. What?
He was great.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean. And that happens. You never know with people's health, and you never know what's going to happen.
Well, we just lost Kim Simmons from Savoy Brown and the drummer from the Rascals. This was yesterday,
Wow.
I believe.
Dino Denali?
Yeah, he just passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Too bad.
Yeah. What did you think when the Beatles came around and the British invasion? Did that scare you a little bit?
Yeah, I was on a tour over in UK with Little Eva, and that was in the winter, February of 1963.
Right.
And so right at that time, the Beatles had released, over in England, they had released Love Me Do, and their second record is the one that I heard. I'd never heard Love Me Do, but I heard Please Please Me. It was on the radio while I was there, and I thought, wow, they sound so, this is going to be really a big thing, because they played on the records. They had a harmonica part of that one too, sounded cool. And it just had an excitement about it, and the song was very cool. So when I got back, I for like a year, almost a whole year, I was telling people, the Beatles, they're going to be big. And no one was really listening. Their records, I think they released a couple of them on DJ Records.
Right.
From Me to You, and She Loves You even came out on Swan Records.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took all the way almost to the end of the year before I Want to Hold Your Hand came out, and and then they just went crazy. I mean, it just went worldwide.
Yeah, I talked to Tommy Rowe. I've talked to him a bunch of times. He's a really nice guy. Of course, he toured with the Beatles, and he tried to get him signed. I think it was on RCA, and they turned him down. He was trying to help the Beatles at that. They laughed at him. you know.
Yeah, it was because, the reason I think for that, what you just said was that there were no English artists from England
right.
that ever, really cracked through the American market, with a few exceptions like Frank Ifield, I'll Remember You. That
mm-hmm.
was but it was mostly the other way around, that the American artists had success in England, and the Beatles were really the first, that cracked through.
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of your probably buddies on the show recently. I had Joey D on recently. Nice guy. He lives in Clearwater. Tommy Rowe, of course. Dion. I've had Dion on recently. And, of course, Gary Lewis is coming up next. Anything you want to say to Gary?
No, just tell him I said hello.
Okay. I've interviewed him before. He's a nice guy. He's a really good guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's very cool. Yeah, I've done tours with him, and we did this thing called the Rock and Roll Army. That was, and we've been on cruises together. I always like hanging out with Gary. He's a great guy.
I want to mention you did a Christmas album. Well, you did another Blue Christmas, an EP. What other Christmas stuff can we? I mean, if we want to go out and start buying some Brian Hyland Christmas music for the holidays, what else you got going on?
Well, I had two,
right.
Blue Christmas and then another Blue Christmas, and if I did a third one, I was going to do it, and yet another Blue Christmas, but I didn't get there yet. So, but I have a song that I've been working on that I think it'll come out next Christmas.
Oh, okay, good.
Because with Christmas songs, anything like that, you have to have it all prepared by July, and because it takes that long to get it out there.
Did you write it?
No, actually, this one that I'm going to do was written by Peter Udell, who's he's a lyricist that wrote "Seal with a Kiss."
Oh, okay, yeah,
Gary Gell.
Right. You worked with those guys a lot.
Yes, I did. And this song is a new song, which actually he wrote with Jack Keller.
Okay.
Who's a pretty good. He was, he's also passed away, but he was a great songwriter also.
Yeah, but imagine if you wrote a Christmas song and it took off. Oh my gosh, the royalties. That would be huge.
Yes, it would, because it would get played every year.
Exactly.
And, it would keep. Yeah, it's like it's endless.
What was the first concert you ever been to since you were? I mean, you came out so early in the early '60s and everything. What was the first show you ever saw?
Well, the first that I saw or that I was on.
No, the first show you ever saw.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I never thought about that. I guess it would have been one that I was on, really.
Okay.
And one of the first shows that sticks in my mind would have been a show I did with Murray the K in New York at Brooklyn Paramount. And I was on that show with Jackie Wilson, Jerry Lee Lewis, Etta James, Tony Orlando, Ralph Donner.
Wow.
And
little lineup.
A bunch of different doo-wop groups are on there. I think maybe Little Anthony and the Imperials.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, to me, that was very memorable because of the lineup that was on that show, and it was great.
There was a picture of you, I think, with Elvis. A really cool picture that I captured. Did you know Elvis really well?
No, I met him. I met him that night. Right. I met him up in Las Vegas, and went to. That was when he first started, doing shows in Las Vegas, and I guess it was probably the second place that he played, the International. Right. And
yeah.
He was great, and actually when I was with Del Shannon, when we walked into we got back to where his dressing room was, and so they said, Del Shannon, Brian Hyland's here. So then he came out and he said, Del, because he was doing Runaway in his set. That's why we went up there. Mm-hmm. And so then he looked at me and he said, oh, Brian Hyland. He says, Brian, I always loved Seal with a Kiss. And it kind of stunned me when he said that. But that was, fantastic. I didn't even, you never think that, Elvis had listened to my song.
Right.
It's just one of those things that, it doesn't register. But he did. He really liked Seal with a Kiss. And he was very cool. And we sat and talked with him for about an hour in his dressing room. And he was just a really very gracious person. Very nice.
Yeah, everybody I knew that I talked to that knew Elvis said he was a great guy, and when he walked into a room, it was like, it was so magical. It was like a glow around him.
Yeah, he was Elvis.
He was Elvis. That's right. There would never be another Elvis. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Brian, here's your final question. I ask everybody that I interview this particular question. I get some very interesting answers. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform or collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Wow.
Elvis.
You mean, now, are you talking about writing a song with, or being on the show with, or just
all of it, all of the above? Anybody that you can, you want to hang around, or just collaborate musically wise, or share the stage with?
I would say, of the people that I never really got to work with, I would say, well, there's a couple, like for instance, like Don and Phil, Everly Brothers. I met Phil, but I never met them both and heard them both sing like in a room or anything like that. So I guess they would be the ones, the Everly Brothers.
Yep, great team. They were incredible as well. Lots of hits. Yeah. Very good. Well, I want to thank you. First, I want to thank. Is it Oscar or Slanian? Is that how you pronounce it?
That's it. You got it.
I want to thank Oscar for arranging this interview with you. I want everybody to go on your website to check out, and YouTube and Amazon, to check out all your singles because they're incredible. www.brianhyland.com. Brian's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Brian, thank you so much for I've been trying to get a hold of you for actually years. Always wanted to interview you, you know. And
it was great talking to you, Ray. And once again, tell Gary I said hello.
I sure will, and I'm sure you'll be around here. You know, I mean, you guys always play like the Clearwater area, you know. So, and I'm due for a cruise, so maybe I'll see you on a cruise or something in the future.
All right, sounds good.
All right, Brian. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you, Ray.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.